Abortion seems to be like a big topic these days, and I was actually at your booth earlier. I was just listening in, and that was a big topic there too. And so I guess I just had a question about that because at the booth, like whenever someone was asking you like why are we valuing the fetus, it kept coming back to human life, and like I didn't really understand what you meant by that because when you say human life, human life by definition is an organism or a being that has human DNA. And so when the fetus only really has that connection with, like fully grown adults or just like born children, what entitles the fetus to violate the property rights of the mother over her own body or to have the government do so on her behalf?
Does that baby have unique DNA?
Yeah.
So by your own definition, that should be worthy of protection, right?
No, I don't believe that DNA has moral value.
Okay, got it. So when does human life begin?
Well, human life, I guess, if you say like an organism that is human species, by definition begins at conception.
Right. So then my position is that being that begins at conception is worthy of constitutional rights and protection.
Why? What moral value does simply being an organism, even if it's just a single-celled organism, that has human DNA, what moral value?
Right, because human beings are different. Human beings have the ability to have rational speech, to reason, not just consciousness, not just the ability to feel. Human beings are the only species that can not just feel pain and pleasure, but can tell the just from the unjust. Human beings are something that is so beautiful and so special, and of course I have many different reasons to believe this, but I'll make a natural law argument, that DNA will never exist again. It's distinct, and it is living. And if allowed uninterrupted growth, that human being will hopefully mature into something just like you have. And we're all abortion survivors, aren't we?
Okay, so you mentioned the rationality that makes human beings special. But that single-celled organism doesn't have that rationality yet. And so what qualifies the entirety of the human species to have that?
So my 7-week-old doesn't have a lot of rationality yet. My baby girl eats and does other things and sleeps. Obviously you would agree, that 7-week-old has value.
Well, yeah, but I'm not coming from an argument of rationality. I'd come from more of like a self-ownership type perspective. And I simply don't believe that an organism that is inherently dependent on violating another person's property rights in order to survive.
Right. My 7-week-old is very dependent on my wife and me. That doesn't mean I can just eliminate my 7-week-old. I'm sorry?
Obviously, the 7-week-old depends on for practicality in living. But if we're talking about a moral perspective, right, just the capacity to have rationality, why does that give it moral value?
Okay, but we're talking about two different things. I guess the question is, do you believe just because something is dependent on another, is that a reason that you could be able to eliminate that being?
If that being has to violate someone else's moral rights in order to do so, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
So what moral rights do you mean by that?
The right to have autonomy of your own body. If another actor is violating those rights, then yeah, to remove it, I don't see a problem with that.
Got it. So bodily autonomy would be more important than another being able to live a full life.
Yeah, I would value a being that has the right to property over one that doesn't have a right to property yet.
Got it. Just because the being is older and not in the womb and bigger.
And also because the being is a person and not just an organism.
Okay, but if that being's 1 week old, it's more than a single cell organism.
Yeah, but that person, that 1 week old still has autonomy over themselves, at least at 1 week old. Has an inherent
Got it. Okay.
Natural autonomy over themselves.
So this is where we have clarity but not agreement. Here's the problem, okay? Morality that built the West and the morality that I'm going to defend tonight is that 1 week old can't defend themselves, so stronger, bigger people not in the womb need to insert themselves to make sure that 1 week old is not terminated by people that just happen to be older and bigger than them. Is that regardless of size, as soon as that life begins, which you agreed it starts at conception, that being deserves constitutional rights, uniquely and fearfully made. And it's the question of the morality of a society, of what we're willing to do when that being comes into existence. Because human life is special. Human life is different than dolphins. It's different than chimpanzees. We not just have the ability to reason, and I'm going to make an argument you might not agree with. Yes, human beings have a soul. And a soul is worthy of protection. I would even go as far to say that human being is made in the image of the Creator. I don't expect you to agree with that. Final point.
Okay, so I guess I would just believe that the only types of, at least the only types of humans that can have moral rights are ones that act as moral agents, and a single-celled organism that's living in a womb, or a multicellular organism that's living in a womb.
Can you explain what you mean by moral agents?
Moral agency?
Well, so if you don't have moral agency, then you could be up for elimination.
If you don't have, if you don't have moral agency, if you don't have the ability to if you don't have ownership over your own body yet.
Yeah. So that, by the way, that is babies until they're about 18 months old do not have ownership of their own body.
No, I would say that they do.
Okay. How would my 7-week-old feed herself if I just left her in the crib?
That's not ownership over your own body, though. The ability to move your body by instinct, even, is ownership over your own body.
Okay. So a 22-week-old baby in the womb moves all the time. You're contradicting yourself. You have to have a line. At 15 weeks, 6 weeks, there's a heartbeat.
I guess I would say that, okay, so that was a good point, I'll admit.
Thank you. Thank you.